to Los Angeles, and now we have reports that concern was justified. A second plane has gone down, United Flight 175. Again, that was from Boston to LA. And as you look at the Pentagon, which was also hit by a plane earlier in the day. Jeff?
Yes, Tom, you were mentioning that
the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could, but he said that there was another explosion which took place. And then an hour after the first hit here, with the first crash that took place, he said, there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. One of the secondary devices he thinks that took place after the initial impact was, he thinks, may have been on the plane that crashed into one of the towers. The second device he thinks, he speculates, was probably planted in the building. So that's what we have been told by Albert Turry, who is the Chief of Safety for the New York City Fire Department. He told me that just moments ago. Now, we are continuing to hear explosions. Here downtown, and what we've been told by some of the fire officials is that there are some gas lines that occasionally are exploding down there, because obviously, as you can imagine, there are a lot of open gas lines down in the southern part of Manhattan where the World Trade Center towers used to be. As far as the situation right here, basically what we have are hundreds of New York City firefighters.
A partir de las 8 de la mañana. O sea que este edificio, si bien es cierto, no ha estado lleno a su capacidad total, sí ha habido personas. Se estima que pueden haber de 2,000 hasta 3,000 muertos.
We have no idea yet what the loss of life will be, certainly in the hundreds. We know that hospitals here in New York are overwhelmed with people being brought there all over the city of New York and beyond.
The only piece of news that is the least bit, I guess, reassuring is that there is no report of any kind of chemical result. That is, the folks on the ground around the World Trade Center, the rescue crews, the survivors, there is absolutely no indication at this moment that there was any kind of bioterrorism involved. Not that what happened here isn't horrific enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just add on again, small, medium-sized pieces of information as we go. All airlines in the country are closed down. All airports in the country are closed down. We now are being told that the U.S.-Mexican border has been sealed. We don't know if that is just simply part of a plan that the government puts into effect under a worst-case circumstance. This is certainly that, or if there is some specific reason why a decision was made to shut down that border. Our senior White House correspondent, John King, on the phone. John? John King, can you hear me? It's Aaron.
I hear you, Aaron.
What have you got to report for us?
Aaron, I'm standing across from the White House. I'm told by Secret Service and administration sources that all of the principals, all of the protectees, meaning the President, the Vice President, the First Lady, and Mrs. Cheney, are safe. They do not want us disclosing their locations, but I am told by a senior administration official that the plan and the priority is to get President Bush back to the White House as soon as they believe it is safe. Now, there are both operational and political reasons for wanting to do that. The White House Situation Room, in the view of White House officials, is the best place from which to monitor events and direct any operations. And that is a fortified structure within the White House compound where we know the Vice President was when everyone else was evacuated from the premises earlier. Again, the Secret Service does not want to confirm for us for security reasons, or administration officials the same, tell us where those people are now, although I was told a short time ago the Vice President is still in a position to be monitoring and directing the response to these developments, and that the President, who is en route back to Washington, we're told Andrews Air Force Base is on full alert. I was also told that there are extra precautions that were taken to ensure the President's flight back to Washington was a safe one. Now, you can read into that additional fighter...
Está con nosotros, nos está acompañando Eduardo Gamarra, que es profesor de Ciencias Políticas de la Universidad Internacional de la Florida. Yo creo que
one of the towers began collapsing. The hope was it would be only partially collapsed. But the hope was not fulfilled. The tower came down. And then as that awful fact was being absorbed, the second World Trade Center collapsed. Witnesses below screamed. Some were caught in the avalanche of cascading debris, concrete and steel. The mayor of New York says there'll be a tremendous loss of life. A police spokesman speaking anonymously said many thousands have died. In Washington, where the Pentagon, an aircraft came down at or near the Pentagon. Another aircraft reported crashing near Camp David, the presidential retreat. There's some doubt about what the facts are in that situation. To get a live picture at the Pentagon now, to sort out some of what's happened in Washington, we go to CBS News correspondent Bob Orr. Bob?
Well, Dan, the pictures are just overwhelming, and frankly, the people I deal with on a daily basis are not really prepared to deal with the depth of the devastation. As we look at the Pentagon picture here, I can tell you that I just spoke to the FAA a short time ago, and they are now confirming what other agencies have said for a while, that at least 4 large commercial airliners have been involved in today's attack, and there may be a 5th. We know, we've been putting the information on the screen.
Eventuality, but you never actually expect to see something of this magnitude. But we have coordinated well with the city. We're going to continue to make sure we provide all the support we can. We do have emergency services and emergency transportation running. I know the reports have been inaccurate. We do have limited rail service out of Grand Central to the northern suburbs, limited rail service out of Brooklyn and Queens to Long Island. We're working to make sure that bus service to the extent possible continues, and we're trying to get subway service back on track. It's not there yet, but the coordination has been excellent. It's just an attack of this magnitude. We just have to focus on responding and helping people at this point.
And do you have any idea how many people have been hospitalized or how many hospitals?
Tú bien dijiste, y otros 2 aviones que chocaron de United Airlines, uno de ellos en Pittsburgh y otro que todavía no se sabe dónde.
Nuevas imágenes de la gente en las Torres Gemelas haciendo lo que ustedes ven, la ropa haciendo señales de emergencia, de ayuda. Son personas que se encuentran, por supuesto, en los pisos superiores, desesperadas, y de acuerdo con la información que nos había dado Blanca Rosa Vilches hace unos momentos, algunas de estas personas, ante la opción de morir quemadas o morir saltando, decidieron morir saltando. Son imágenes, y seguramente a lo largo del día seguiremos viendo estas imágenes terribles. Profesor Gamarra, más preguntas. Estados Unidos es, por supuesto, después de la desaparición de la Unión Soviética, la única superpotencia económica, militar, financiera. No hay otro país u otro ejército que pudiera enfrentarse. Entonces, a ustedes los académicos les gusta llamar estos conflictos asimétricos, ¿no?
Absolutamente.
Explíquenos esta palabra tan complicada en términos más sencillos. ¿Qué es lo que estamos viendo ahora?
Bueno, ese término quiere decir que, por ejemplo, un país tan pequeño como Palestina, ¿no?
O Afganistán.
O Afganistán no tiene la capacidad de enfrentarse militarmente o económicamente a Estados Unidos. Hay una disproporción enorme en términos de tamaño, en términos de capacidad militar, etc. En este contexto, lo que estos países han optado por hacer es precisamente recurrir al terrorismo. El terrorismo
es la guerra del futuro, o la forma de enfrentarse en el futuro.
Exacto. Es una guerra que es atroz porque en gran medida lo que se identifica es cualquier objetivo civil se convierte en un objetivo militar. Estos obviamente para nosotros son objetivos completamente civiles. Sin embargo, desde la óptica de esta perspectiva del terrorismo, desde esta perspectiva de cómo mejorar la asimetría, cualquier objetivo es un objetivo válido.
¿Pero qué quieren? O sea, por ejemplo, las miles de gentes, profesor, que nos están escuchando, dicen, ¿qué quieren estos terroristas? ¿O qué quieren lograr? ¿O qué pueden lograr matando a civiles? O sea, ¿Qué objetivo se consigue con esto?
En gran medida debemos acordarnos que esto es un yihad, esto es una guerra sagrada, esto es una guerra que en realidad
está at the perimeter of where the commercial jetliner came down at the Pentagon. Well, it appears that we may have lost the phone connection with Jamie McIntyre. We're going to try to get that restored immediately. Jamie, are you there? Now we have Bob Franken, our Washington correspondent, joining us from the Pentagon. Bob, tell us what you are seeing there.
Well, what we're seeing, of course, in back of me is the smoke that's coming from the west side of...
Once occupied by the majestic World Trade Center's buildings, an indescribable scene of death and destruction, where it was real blood and real screams of the dying. People seen leaping or being forced out of the building at fairly high levels. And when those buildings collapsed, that concrete and...
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Obviously, we're looking at some just devastating pictures of Lower Manhattan, similar pictures at the Pentagon in Washington, and another incident in Pittsburgh. Just first of all, your reaction.
Well, it's just a horrible, horrible day. It's an attack upon America, an attack upon New York, and we have to respond longer term to make sure we protect ourselves. But right now, we have to deal with this crisis and try to help the people who are still trapped, still at risk. And we've mobilized our national. And you make sure that people don't get into the towers without being inspected. You make sure that people can't park under the towers, but you just can't be prepared for a plane to fly into one of the towers or two planes to fly into the towers. It's a horrible, horrible situation. Our heart goes out to all those whose families are at risk, and we're just going to do everything we can to respond and be supportive and helpful too.
Obviously, the loss of life is the primary concern right now in helping those who've been injured. But if you will, at least talk to me a little bit about the other impact of this building. This is, for example, as Tom and Katie and I have pointed out, the world financial center, the hub of finances in the world, if not at least here in the United States. What type of damage has been done to the financial infrastructure of this country?
The economic impact is something we can talk about as the days unfold.
Final destination. Again, let's pause.
Las fronteras de Estados Unidos. Esto es sumamente importante, que están considerando cerrar las fronteras de Estados Unidos. El funcionario de la...
Lack of smoke. Eileen.
It was very smoky, and then we exited on Church Street out of the PATH train station. I crossed over to Church and Fulton.